Hey guys, it's Ryan Fowler here with Tim Costello and Jordan Kurtz, the Inner Game Group, Inner Masculine Live. But I just got the MindChrysalis new animation up, so it'll soon be MindChrysalis Live. So good times. We're rebranding to MindChrysalis because we want to help everyone. But today we're going to look at two very kind of disparate clips, but same topic because more and more, we've been talking about toxic shame. I mean, we talk about it more than anything else, although we cover a wide variety of topics. We are seeing more and more YouTube clips. I mean, there's actually dozens of YouTube clips out, maybe hundreds, on feeling not good enough. Some of them advertise it, some just mention it in passing, but we got a Russell Brand clip today. We have Dr. Patti Ashley clip today, and hers is actually a pretty good, I guess I'll say shallow deep dive or quick deep dive. She goes into, childhood, all that stuff. But this is becoming a more and more ubiquitous topic. And so we're going to explore, does everyone feel this at some point? Does everyone feel not good enough? And kind of just dive in and see how broad is this really in our society today. So, but before we get to that, go ahead, Jordan, introduce yourself, and then Tim.
I'm Jordan Kurtz. I am Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis on Twitter. I post about all things about hypnosis, hypnotherapy, inner game, self-esteem, that kind of stuff. Happy to be here.
And I'm Tim Costello with clearthattrauma.com. And what we're going to talk about today is the things that cause the traumas that relive through our lives. Our subconscious is a software program running in our brain. And if that is miswired, as we'll hear today, that runs the rest of your life and causes you issues. We're here to clear those up.
Yeah, very good. And by the way, you can see right under my name right there, school.com, MindChrysalis-7138. It's a community. It's all free. We do 2 webinars a month. So we got one on Monday coming up on letting go of resentment, anger, rage, bitterness, just letting all that go. Why do you want to let it go? And we are doing projection on the 21st. A little different from our normal schedule. So 2 webinars a month. There is actually a program to help you. If you feel not good enough, we have a program for free to help you. P-Dubs, welcome to the show. Our longtime follower, P-Dubs, appreciate it. Oh, and I have not seen this individual before. Welcome to the show. Thanks.
J count 9K1.
So if you feel not good enough, or anger, resentment, or feeling unsafe, you feel you can't get what you want, lack of self-belief, any of that, we actually have solutions. We have ways for you guys to actually go and fix yourself. It's free. And if you wonder if it's even worth the effort, go to the video section of this YouTube channel. There's 19 client interviews. I'm scheduling another 5 client interviews, telling you 1 session, 2 sessions, change their lives. Taking all this self-doubt, lack of self-worth, not feeling good enough, and then changing it to true blue authentic confidence. And believe you me, when you get that deep down in your core, not surface level, but deep down in your core, it changes everything. So we have resources to actually help you, and webinars and everything else. The webinars, you can ask us questions directly. I mean, you can post them here too. So we're here to help. Before we start these clips, Jordan and then Tim, why do you think we hammer home not good enough? Why do we hammer it so freaking much? Why do we hammer that more than anything else? We talk about it and talk about how to fix it and how it messes up society. Why is that our number one thing? Would you guys care to comment?
It's often the most common, probably. It's okay. Everyone experiences it, and it's probably the most painful and the most common, I think.
I'll add to that. It is so common that Ryan's mentioned this a couple of years ago in a video I saw him do, that it is the pandemic in the world, mostly in Western civilizations, that is been practiced for 100 years, and it's growing and growing through our population because the parents that are raising kids now, maybe 3, 4, or 5 generations down from the 18th century toxic shame that was practiced way back then. When you're abusing, withholding, emotionally abusing, physically abusing, all of those topics causes toxic shame. It's practiced and it's felt. And that is wired in your subconscious when you're young. So what do you do the rest of your life? You let those programs run, and it runs continuously, guiding 95% of your decisions day in and day out, which causes a pretty dysfunctional human being. Even though we may be operating, making money, communicating, marrying, having children, we'll learn, and we have learned in past broadcasts, that broken people create more broken people.
Yeah, and Dr. Patti Ashley today, the clip we watched, she actually goes into Western parenting practices and how normal Western civilization parenting practices screws people the hell up.
That's right.
It's like, that is our normal Western society. Dr. Gabor Mate, guys, watch Dr. Gabor Mate on parenting. And we did a show, on how Western society basically screws people up. And there's all these professionals saying normal parenting practices, the way it's done. Now, it's funny because like the Aboriginals in Australia and a lot of these hunter-gatherer societies, they actually, their children are actually much more confident because they're much better parents, it turns out. It's pretty interesting. But in Western society, man, they just screw kids up, man. Just normal parenting practices. So we have a clip that's actually going to go into that somewhat today. So that's going to be interesting. So, okay. So yeah, welcome to the show, guys. J2345678. I wish I actually knew your name, but I'll just call you Jay. Can it also be from imposter syndrome and lack of self-awareness? Altogether, 1, 2, 3. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Imposter syndrome is, if people knew who the real me was, they'd find out I'm not good enough. So I'm going to, project like I got it going on, that I know what I'm doing. But deep down, man, I hope people don't find out. Imposter syndrome is actually, especially in management positions like C-level, middle level management, upper management, the higher people get in the corporate ladder, the more you actually see imposter syndrome, because they're making a lot of money. They have a lot of responsibility, and they're like, oh crap. I hope people don't find out I really don't belong at this high station. And Tim, you saw that.
They really do.
You were in, you were right next to your store manager at Walmart, and you're in Walmart World Headquarters. You mentioned you saw that.
Well, so these people that suffer from imposter syndrome, and quite frankly, that's felt internally, and not many other people know that you're suffering from that, or at least you think you're not portraying that you suffer from that. But the reality is, you probably have a skill set, you probably have a knowledge, and you probably have some experience that would lend you to get the promotion you got. But internally, because you never really feel good enough, you think you don't belong. And even though you fake it because you want the money, you want the lifestyle, you want the prestige, you want the respect, deep down inside, you don't feel like you belong there. So it doesn't mean that these people are incompetent or ignorant or anything like that. It's just they will now lend themselves towards creating the view that they do belong there, and they'll fake it, and they'll try to understand why they belong there, and they're not sure. There could be an opportunity for them to not grow past that point because they never do feel good enough. And it's exactly what we're talking about today. Again, they've got skills, they got experience, they got knowledge, very much qualifies them for that position, but they don't feel like they've arrived even though they're there.
Yeah, they're it's fake it till you make it, and they're still faking it even though they made it.
Yeah, even though they should be there, but they don't feel like they should be there.
They're not intentionally like they're not like intentionally teaching it from one generation to the other. It's just it's
the lack of
if you're a-
self-awareness.
It's a
They're
seasoning.
have it and they pass it on.
Yeah, it's
I
you're
mean-
a parent who has broken maladaptive programs in your head. You're going to push some of those behaviors. The behaviors that manifest from those programs are going to then scar your children in maybe not exactly the same way, but in similar ways. And it's not intentional, but it's the result of their parents treating them a certain way, and then it trickles down, as you might say.
And
Yeah,
expands because now 2 people are doing it to 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 people, right, in a family. So it's you almost can't not do it because you were wired that way in your subconscious as a child. So if we believe that 95% of our decisions throughout the day are based on our subconscious, and our subconscious is maladaptive, guess what? Our behavior is maladaptive and dysfunctional, and we will teach that to our children.
Yeah. So the majority of parents want their kids to feel confident and feel good about themselves, but they just don't understand why certain parenting styles lead people to feel not good enough. So we're actually going to dive into that today. Dr. Patti is going to talk about that specifically today, some particular parenting practices that passes it on. And yeah, you know what? It is there's varying degrees of toxic shame. Some people, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. I should have muted my mic. Anyway, it's too late. Some people have a little bit of toxic shame, and that's it. And most of the time they feel pretty good, but they just have a little. Some people have a massive amount, and they're like raging alcoholics or drug addicts, or totally shut down, or it turns them into a sociopath. Yes, that actually works. Kenny, I was watching a show on the Learning Channel on cable a while ago. It was talking about psychopaths and sociopaths. It said, and narcissists, MPD, says they've all had severe child abuse. And that's how they cope. They become a sociopath. That's how they cope. They become a narcissist. That's how they cope with their toxic shame. So Skinny to Swole, welcome to the show. Skinny to Swole, now I think you qualify as a regular. So thanks for coming. So we're going to watch this Russell Brand clip first. It's a pretty short clip. The clip that comes after is actually a lot more informative, but hey, it's Russell Brand. I mean, how can you not watch Russell Brand? So it's scary how exponential this problem is becoming from generation to generation. Yeah. So some quick statistics for you guys. When COVID came out, I know it was just COVID, so I'll give you some more solid ones. When the beer bug came out, I guess I should say that, calls to mental health hotlines went up by almost 900%. Some other data is there's this organization about mental health among universities. I forgot the exact name, but they did a poll, or they did a study of college students. They found out college students right now, 40% of them have so much depression, it is difficult for them to function. 40%. 40% of college students are struggling to function in college because of their depression. They also found out over 60%, at least at one point during the school year, have so much anxiety they feel paralyzed. That's our society. That's extreme. That is a screwed up society. So what the heck is going on that leads to that? Well, we're going to dive into that right now. So let's go to this Russell Brand clip.
Go ahead.
I
can comment real quick.
Yeah,
the exponential problem can also happen in reverse. It only takes one person or child to break out of that cycle to then exponentially cause, generation after positive generation.
You teach all your kids. You fix yourself. You get the awareness. Now your kids and their kids and their kids are going to be way healthier.
Right.
Yeah.
So it works both ways.
It does.
Yeah, very good. And before we go to the clips, scary. It is exponential. And Russell Brand's going to talk about it got exponentially worse with social media. So we're going to dive into that too. So let's go ahead and watch our good friend Russell. Our good, like to call him friend, although we don't know him, but he's a great guy. Russell Brand, here we go.
If you are feeling not good enough, it's hard.
By the way, I love this dude because he's so freaking authentic. Here we go.
Surprising because you might be watching this on a social media platform that does present you with many images that are with which you unfavorably compare. I heard from Brené Brown that women use body image to berate themselves.
By the way, Brené Brown, who he just said is one of the world's leading experts on toxic shame, university professor. And she says everyone has toxic shame to some degree, but we'll keep going.
Men use weakness to berate themselves. Often we recognize that the media runs on using comparative images of both the sexes, or those two sexes, if that's your way of seeing things, that we compare unfavorably to beautiful images of women, strong men. And we're both of those genders are left feeling shortchanged by virtue of the comparison. You might not feel good enough because it's like feeling not good enough suggests that there's an ideal version of yourself. And I happen to think that that's kind of true, as in there is a latent potential. We will grow to a certain height. We can achieve a certain musculature. We can achieve certain levels of consciousness, but we consume so much negative product, so much negative data. I, to be honest, am quite cautious about the way I use media. Like, I try not to look at too much social media because I don't want to read people being negative or criticizing or gossiping or attacking me. I don't like looking at other people's lives because I sometimes feel like I'm not good enough as a result of that. But of course, like any tool, it can be positively used to create connection and to convey positive and helpful information. It's partly what I'm trying to do, as a matter of fact, is just speak about things that's beneficial, that give you the opposite feeling that you are good enough, that you are worthy of love, that you are capable of achieving.
You want to pause it there?
Sure. You may need to address those.
Okay.
So my first thought was him talking about this ideal status of being, right? And I thought he's kind of going along the right path, the way I often describe it. I often describe being good enough isn't something that you can attain. It's something you're born with. It's something you have. It's almost like an inalienable right. Is it unalienable? I don't know.
Inalienable.
It's something that's inherent to just existing, and trying to become good. The nature of trying to become good enough doesn't really make sense because you already are. And so I think
people make that mistake. No, they think they're not good enough, and then they think if I become stronger, better looking, more famous, more money, I'll be good enough. And people do that, and then they never feel good enough.
Yeah, and he kind of talks about
it's an internal belief system in it. When it's lodged in your subconscious based on how you're raised and the beliefs you adopt as a child, no amount of success or fitness or fame or whatever actually makes you feel good enough. That's why we have people like Marilyn Monroe, one of the most beautiful women in the world, still self-deleted because of feeling not good enough. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think he was. I like the clip because he talks about you can aspire to be a certain height, you can get the certain muscles, but he's kind of mixing these concepts of the ways you can physically improve your, like, good enough, meaning like I want to be strong enough, I want to be healthy, those are kind of independent of the belief system of I am internally, I have work, like I am worthy, I am good. Like those are sort of separate. And I like him because he's kind of starting to understand that those are different. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're on it. So just in that short couple of minutes that we showed of Russell Brand, that right there could be enough material for 2 or 3 hours worth of shows. He starts off with right there at 43 seconds. We have a way in social media of comparing ourselves to images we know nothing about. They're beautiful images of women. They're images of strong men. Now, they're images. We're assuming that they're strong men, or we're assuming that they're beautiful women. Now, that's just in the US. If you go to Mexico, you're going to have a different image of a beautiful woman. If you go to Germany, you're going to have a different image. If you go to Japan or China. So the beautiful image is very comparative to where you are and how you're comparing against them. So he talks about us seeing that. Now, there's always been social media. It was called magazines and television, but now it's on your phone, in your face, on your computers, on your iPads, all that kind of stuff. So it's much more rampant and much more rapid, right? Because it's coming at you so fast. So now,
and now it's like people putting up their highlight reels and comparing yourself to people you know.
And who on Facebook shows the disasters of their lives? Nobody. It's like, look at me, look what I've done. Here I am, in my glory that I think is my glory. And I want to show everybody how great I am. That's part of that, and now I'm looking for affirmation from the crowd.
Yeah.
So he starts off with us comparing ourselves to images, and then he sort of mixes that up with your ideal self. Well, we want to get you to your authentic self, and your authentic self is absolutely 100% beautiful and wonderful, and you're going to be as different as the next person. So to compare yourself in just 3 paragraphs there, to compare yourself to something you know nothing about is illegitimate to the logic. But guess what? We do it anyway because we're looking for some ideal. I will never be as good looking as Ryan Fowler. It ain't going to happen. I'm not going to have that hair that I can do this to and go up top. It ain't going to happen, right?
It won't happen for Jordan either. Sorry.
That's
Jordan.
right. So if I compared myself to
Jordan's hair is actually pretty good, but yeah.
I might feel bad about myself. But the way I believe is God made a few good heads and the rest he covered with hair. So, here you go, baby. So anyway, let's not compare ourselves to anything else but finding our true, authentic self. And that's just in a couple of paragraphs there.
Yeah, there's just being like that comparison and like inspiration.
Yeah.
If we use other people, it's like, wow, I really want to be like that person because they inspire me. I want to get more muscles and more money and more whatever else you desire because I want to experience life and enjoy life in that way. And then it's like there's a big difference between that and seeing somebody else and then feeling bad about yourself for not having that.
100%.
Yeah, what's funny is anytime I watch a UFC fight, I want to work out afterwards. I want to just hit the gym afterwards.
Inspired to the standard.
Yeah. We do have some questions here. And by the way, I just want to point out, have you guys seen pictures of like these Hollywood actors and actresses like off season
when they're not made up?
They get a role and then they exercise and eat super healthy for 3 to 6 months, getting super good shape. But I've seen ones where like Jason Statham's like 30 pounds overweight and like Keanu Reeves is out of shape and the Paparazzi catch these pictures of them, and it's like that's the thing. They're not at 10% body fat 24/7, 365,
They're just regular people.
Yeah, exactly.
All made up.
And hey, listen, I think fitness is great. I like to work out. I think you should, strive for excellence. But, another thing is one of the things, there's a lot of things I like. There are things I like about the red pill, but there's some things I don't like, which they have this thing like, if you're not alpha Chad, you're not good enough. And it's like, dude, are we all going to be freaking carbon copies where we're like all 10% body fat, bench pressing 300 pounds and, looks maxing? Is that really like the only thing that is going to make you awesome? It's like,
there you go, Ryan.
It's ridiculous.
Backwards.
We all can't even agree what the best looking car is. So how are we going to agree what the best looking human being is?
Well, you want to hear something interesting. There's scientific data out that shows that 70% of women prefer guys with dad bods.
Yeah.
And let me clarify that. That's when women, that's the type of guy they want for a relationship. If they want a one night stand, they go for Uber Chad. But for relationships, and honestly, women are geared more for relationships than one night stands, because one night stand, the guy's gone, now she has a baby, no one there, you know. So when it comes to evolutionary psychology, they'll go for Giga Chad because of superior genes. But when it comes to a long-term committed relationship, 70% of women prefer guys with dad bods. That does not mean overweight. That does not mean out of shape, but it means you're normal guy. You're not Giga Chad. You're a normal guy who's in okay shape. You know, again, if you are, you know, you want to be healthy still. And honestly, I like to work out. You know, it's great. But, you know, it's not the be all end all. We do have some questions here. I want to get to this, guys. Guys, is toxic shame that feeling person feels when they're out in public, feel like they don't belong, feels like the world's judging? That is toxic shame number 2. Number 1 is I'm not good enough. Number 2 is I don't belong or fit in. Number 3 is I cannot get what I want. You feel you cannot. You believe you cannot.
Yeah. So
this is a type of toxic shame. I'm curious, lottery guru. Why don't you feel that way now? Did you make some friends and you didn't have a group of friends back then you do now, or did you do some inner work and fix that? If you're just in a different situation now, then that belief is still there. It's just you're in a different situation that's no longer triggering it. So I'm curious, did you do some work on yourself to fix that, or why do you not feel that anymore? I'm curious. Put that in the chat and we'll talk. Do you guys have anything to comment on?
So I'll throw down on this one here. So toxic shame is the thing that is practiced and the thing that you feel when you're in your youth. And then that creates a subconscious program, right? Because it's events that are happening, the way you feel about those events and your belief or narrative about those events, they come together and they create this subconscious program. That subconscious program is going to run the rest of your life. So what Ryan's making mention about is if you're in public in a certain situation and there's a match for that program, you're now going to feel that emotion that was generated way back in your childhood because it's matching, right? So Ryan said, did everything just change so there's no more match? Or, you know, what happened? Did you do some internal work and rewire that program? Reprogram that subconscious program that's running so that it serves you rather than hurts you. So a lot of good questions there, Ryan. I'm telling you. Jordan, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, remember, I don't know if you were watching at the beginning of the show, but we were talking about why we keep covering toxic shame, and I said because it's so common. So this person that feels like,
and it causes so many maladies.
Yeah,
but keep going. Yeah,
and this person that feels like they're out in public and they don't belong, I think that's a lot of people that feel that way. But the irony is that if everyone feels like they don't belong, well, and I think people aren't willing to talk to each other about that. That's part of the reason we have this show, is to expose that it's like, it's not just you.
Message in a bottle. The police.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You sting.
Of course.
You know, I threw a message I'm throwing out an SOS, a message in the bottle, because he feels all alone and isolated. And the next day he comes back and there's all these other bottles, everyone else on their island, isolated and alone.
100 million bottles have washed up on the shore.
Yeah.
So just because you're walking down the street, looking at everybody else, feeling like you don't belong for whatever reason, you're assuming or deluding yourself into thinking all those other people are thinking like they belong. And quite frankly, there's a whole bunch of them walking down the street with you, just like the song, feeling like they don't belong either.
Yeah, and if you actually want to start fixing that at a deep core level, right there's actually resources, school.com, MindChrysalis -7138. There are resources there to get you feeling better, to move you along. It's in the classroom tab once you join the community.
And I might.
All right. So,
also, if I can say one more thing, I might also argue that if I was someone, I think there are malicious people in the world who understand that fact that most people feel like they don't belong and use it to get them to buy things to support certain causes, politicians, different people, buy certain products. I think that it seems like the individual may seem like, oh, nobody else, I'm the only one who feels like I don't belong. But there are plenty of people throughout time who have figured out they can monetize and weaponize the feelings of toxic shame. Maybe we should do a show on that, how people weaponize toxic shame.
Oh,
Facebook, YouTube.
Predatory women use, or people. Well, women use shaming tactics. Not all women, but a lot of women will use that. But guys too, narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, or BPD, or people with just those tendencies, not a full-blown disorder. Predatory people, they will use your toxic shame. They'll use validation. They'll yank it away. Then they'll devalue you. And it's all manipulation. It's massive amounts of manipulation. Back in World War I, there were women that went around handing guys that did not go to war, they handed them white feathers, and it was a sign of shame. It meant back then if giving you a white feather meant you're a coward. Yep. And it was a manipulation tactic, and it worked. Some of these guys felt ashamed. Oh, this lady's calling me a coward, gave me a white feather, and they went off to war. And then, some of them died from that.
Yeah.
Their shame made them risk their lives. I'm not sure this question would be like a rite of passage. You guys understand this?
I think he means like whether or not like you're only good enough for the tribe if you pass this rite of passage. That's how I took it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you don't pass it, yeah, you're not a man until you pass it. I mean,
yeah, and I agree with, like, I don't know. I think it's good to test yourself, but again, if they're saying you are not worthy, again, it goes back to that more abstract idea of I am inherently worthy. I am born worthy. So, like, it's not a rite of passage to achieve worthiness. You're born this way. But if you want to say, okay, well, a rite of passage to, I mean, almost like even the military or something like that. You have to pass certain tests and standards in order to get in. Right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
It's okay to have standards.
Right.
And guys, we want you to understand we're not like the woke ideology. Like, it's not
participation.
Hey, you deserve a medal even though you didn't achieve anything. We're not saying that at all. We are saying you are enough just as you are. And what that does is that gives you a level of core confidence and a feeling of self-worth so that you actually believe in yourself, and then you go out and kick ass. The ideal mechanism for achieving greatness is not toxic shame. It is, we talk about dopamine optimization and pursuing your dreams, pleasure, all of that. Also, hey, when you're young and you're broke, being broke sucks, and you're like, man, this sucks, and maybe I'm even a little afraid to pay my bills sometimes. So I'm going to go out and earn more. That's cool. That's actually not toxic shame. That's just like, I'm broke. I don't like to be broke. This sucks. I don't like to wonder if I can pay my rent. This sucks. And then you go out and you develop skills, make more money, but that's not necessarily toxic shame. That's actually a valid motivator. We're just saying when you feel you are enough as you are and that you deserve good things, if you put in the work, and you believe you can get something, you believe in your ability and value, then you just go out and kick all sorts of ass. And that is the best way to
earn it. That's the thing. You can't
clarify
belief of worthiness.
Yeah, to clarify, when your authentic self is discovered and ripping off all the layers of subconscious trauma caused by toxic shame, you now are literally free and have liberty to now choose what it is you want to do and call success. You don't care what anybody else says success is. Maybe Jordan says one day, you know what? Screw all this other stuff. I'm just going to go be a corn farmer in Iowa. And I'm going to buy a tractor. I'm going to buy 40 acres. I'm going to start growing corn, and I'm going to start generating that economy. And he's happy. He's got his house. At the end of the day, he comes in. The wife's got the table on the food on the table. Life is fantastic. 100% success, because Jordan now won't care about what anybody else thinks. He's generating an income, generating a retirement. He's got relationships with people, relationship with the land, and that's where he wants to be if he so chooses. The key is to choose what you really want to do, not what somebody else thinks you ought to do.
Yeah. Or you become an Olympic athlete. If that's your jam, freaking go for it. Man.
Yeah, if you got that prowess, you betcha.
You take actions that reflect the beliefs inside of you.
Bingo.
Yeah, so Lottie Girl answered my question, started making new friends. He still feels it so you're not getting triggered as much, but it's still there. How would you, Lottery Girl, how would you like to be a guy who walks into a party and you don't know anyone there and you feel fine? And then you see a group and maybe your anxiety is 2 out of 10, but that's about all it is. You feel pretty good other than that. And you just join the group and start talking and you make friends. That is a realistic, achievable goal that you can go into a party not knowing everyone, maybe a tiny bit of anxiety, but, a lot of eagerness too.
And by the way, Ryan, that
you
anxiety
don't
you're talking,
and then you make friends. How
that
would you
anxiety,
like to feel that? Our
that
message
anxiety
that.
you're talking about, a 1 to 2, that's pretty normal human being anxiety in a new situation. You don't know anybody there. You can be a little bit anxious, a little bit eager, a little bit excited. Go, and that melts away because your authentic self walks in the room. Everybody recognizes your authentic self, and boom, the world is good.
Yeah. Hey, Steven, welcome to the show. We'll get to the clips, but you guys got questions, so we're answering them. Russell, former addict, by the way, hardcore addict. Yep. How Russell was talking about at the beginning of the video, would that solve the identity problem with community? What solves the identity problem with community?
I'm not sure.
Is hold on. Is go here and use my free program. That'll get you started. There's more to do, but we have a lot of resources. The free stuff we give you, it is powerful. It is enough for, I have people messaging me and they're like, oh, I had this issue all my life where I clenched my jaw because I had all this stress, I didn't know why. And now I walk around and I feel happy and my jaw's relaxed. What is that, Ryan? It's like, yeah, you did the program and it worked. And now you feel better because we change your core beliefs. Try it, experience it, go there. We got it's like 2 hours of video trainings. There's self-hypnosis. There's some worksheets you can use, all free. Webinars twice a month. There's a community where people are, helping each other out, chatting, talking about different topics. You want some of this good stuff? Man, Tim knew me back in 2005 when I was a train wreck. He knows his stuff works. Tim became a hypnotist because he met me after I fixed my core, and he's like, holy crap, what did you do to yourself, Ryan? You're so much better now. You actually have confidence. Okay, so moving on, and then we'll get back to the clips. Viktor Frankl's work. Viktor Frankl, my man. All right.
Search for happiness. Yeah, baby.
All right. Okay, so let's go back to this. Maybe watch it even a little quicker. And then, because we really want to get to this Patti Angel clip, her stuff is freaking awesome. All right. So our good friend, Russell Brand, dropping truth bombs. Here we go.
Things. Look at the reasons why you want to achieve them. What are the areas of your life that you don't feel good enough in? Your relationships, your work, your anatomy. I've felt inferior in all of those areas on loads of occasions. It's getting a lot easier. It gets a lot easier the more I focus on helping other people, to tell you the truth. The more time I spend talking to other people about their problems, giving them suggestions and examples of how they might address some of those challenges, or sometimes if I don't know, just being loving to other people. If my purpose becomes to love others, then the feeling that I'm not good enough, it recedes and on occasion entirely evaporates. Part of the not feeling good enough, in my opinion, is the continual campaign for self-fulfillment through the pursuing of external goals, even if it's an external image of yourself. You are good enough. When people say the world is an illusion, they're right, It's temporary. It may even literally be holographic. It certainly is only one aspect of a reality that is likely more complex than we are capable of understanding, and it is this lack of capability that prevents it from ever being understood. I mean to say, we thought the earth was flat, now we know the world is spherical. Perhaps in generations they'll say, wow, they didn't know that there were all these different frequencies of reality that you could access, all these parallel dimensions that humans can inhabit. Now we know this. How foolish they were to not feel good enough. Difficult to be somewhere between an ape and a divine creature, isn't it? I find it strange. Sometimes I'm in my monkey mind, full of my monkey needs and monkey requirements. Other times, a real bliss of connection. Other times, the pain of being a person that has spiritual longing and yearning. The way to free yourself from not feeling good enough is to recognize that the standard that you're trying to appeal to, if not arbitrary, certainly a construction of some kind. There is no absolute total version of a person that we're comparing ourselves to. Even if you're religious and think, well, I want to be more like Christ, or more like Muhammad, or more like the Buddha, or more like what's that Chinese one she's called? I think Ki Jung, I can't remember her name. You'll know, she's the mother. You'll tell me in the answers to this. Nice to have an idol or a saint to aspire to, but to also recognize that these energies, these humours, these saintly attributes are latent within us. So possibly that feeling that you're not good enough is part of you communicating to your conscious mind that there are things to aspire to, but it won't be achieved through flat abs. Although I love a flat ab when I'm watching Love Island, I think, look at their lovely flat abs. And it won't be achieved through money, because it's unbelievably abstract. And it won't be achieved through the pursuit of sex or the consuming of drugs. The road of excess does lead to the palace of wisdom, because you realize that excess is not the answer. You shed a lot on the way. If you feel not good enough, be careful what you consume here. Be careful what you look at online. Be careful how you participate. Be careful how you indulge those moments within you. Be careful how you attach to misery and pain. It's very easy to get quite connected to it. Like when I see real suffering and real sadness, sometimes I oddly want to possess it, parasite off it. But I recognize my role is to be supportive, nourishing, and encouraging, not to try and own other people's pain. And when I'm in my pain because
So
of
hang on a second there.
Yeah, I got some comments too. Go ahead, though.
He is describing what the going methodology of the world is, and that is sort of a CBT, sort of talk therapy, sort of a cognitive effort of controlling that trigger of you're not good enough.
He's talking about managing symptoms, which is helpful.
Yeah, and in the reality, what you really want to do is get into that root cause of why you have that feeling, tear that out, reprogram that, so you don't feel that any longer.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out, he's talking about social media, all this other stuff. What that is that's triggering people, meaning we form these beliefs in childhood. I'm not good enough. And for some things, it's context specific. Some things you just feel not good enough, period. It's different for different people. You might have both versions of that. When you get on social media and you're seeing other people who look like have a way better life than you, that is triggering a belief already in you that's buried down there. So he's saying avoid social media. He's saying avoid the triggers. But there's unhealthy ways to cover this painful feeling, which is drugs, alcohol, etc. Covering that pain with just numbing it out, pleasure, whatever. But he also mentions, hey, have some human connection and volunteer or help other people out. That is a healthy way to manage the symptom and actually, start feeling better about yourself. But it is just a temporary thing. It's still not fixing this deep down subconscious belief. So what we do is we actually change like the subconscious belief buried in you. And there's, for me, and maybe you, Jordan, because Tim's always kind of thought he was awesome, but and he is. But Jordan, you've had toxic shame before. How it is for me is I go through things in the past that used to trigger me, and I just don't get triggered. I don't feel not good enough when I'm on social media. I remember like going through Facebook, and I'm like, man, look at everyone else. Their lives are so great, and it's like I'm not going out doing all this stuff with friends. I'm not having all these great experiences. I remember, looking at that and like feeling not good enough. Now I look at all that stuff and I'm like, that's nice. And it doesn't trigger me. Why does it not trigger me? Well, because that deep down, there's no deep down toxic shame belief to get triggered. It's gone, got rid of it. It's not there anymore. So it doesn't get triggered when I go on social media. We remove the buried belief that gets triggered when you go on social media or whatever else is triggering it. You know, I'm in a situation right now. I was in Mexico, then I was in now I'm in Costa Rica. Because of a last minute mix up, I had to leave my dog back in Mexico. I have friends in Mexico. Here I'm dating, but I don't know anyone. I just decided to live here for 6 months. And honestly, I feel pretty good. You know, I feel a little better when I'm in Mexico and I have my friends that I know and my dog. But I don't get triggered now. I know if I had not fixed my inner world, I'd be pretty depressed right now because, you know, because I just, you know, again, I'm dating some girls. That's always fun. But otherwise, you know, moved to a country where I didn't know anyone, period. You fix your core, you have the strength to do stuff like that, and you don't feel lonely. That's what we do. We work on we're not just managing symptoms, we like fix the deep down belief. So, and it changes everything. It's awesome. So, and I am going back to Mexico. I like Mexico more.
I found it interesting, Russell's comment of like, if we ever figure out how humans can inhibit higher dimensions and stuff, and he's like, they'll look back on this whole toxic shame, like, what were they even thinking? I'm like, well, it's an interesting thought. He kind of is, he's saying a lot of stuff in this video. It's so, I mean, I could have interjected about 6 times already, but I knew
he touches on a lot of little points. Yeah.
The one thing I'll say is I like when he says maybe it's a latent quality of being good enough. And I think that he's right on. He's starting to go down the right path there. Like it's a latent, ever-present,
deep down belief formed in childhood.
Right. A quality that, and also the feeling of worthiness, can also be that as well.
Yeah, this next clip is a psychology professor who's actually going to dive more into that. Jay, how Russell was talking about at the beginning of the video, would that solve the identity problem with community?
I think we talked about that already.
That'll solve the problem. Fixing your core, which we show you how to do for free. Right there.
Yep.
Go there. Go to the classroom tab after you join for free. Watch the videos, do the worksheet, do the self-hypnosis. It's really like kind of a self-guided meditation. Do it a few times. Start feeling much better. Realize your toxic shame has been greatly reduced. That's feel like you belong more, feel like you fit in more. Notice you have less anxiety around people now, or, you know, it's different for different people. This is why we're doing a show, to give you actual solutions that are much stronger, much more powerful than what is out there conventionally. We've done this for ourselves and for many others. Go to the video section of YouTube, watch client interviews. There's like almost 20 of them. I'm scheduling another 5 right now. So yeah, we got the answers. That's why we got a show. Right. Viktor Frankl's work in logotherapy. Okay, so we're gonna go on to this doctor who does a deep dive. Any final comments about Russell Brand before we move on, guys?
No.
Okay.
Awesome dude.
All right, so here is Dr. Patti Ashley. Her stuff is absolute fire because she's gonna go more into like the deep psychology. So let me bring this up and then rock and roll on this. So now we're gonna like dive into some like deep underlying. She's gonna talk about the subconscious, childhood upbringing, et cetera, et cetera. So this is gonna be very interesting for you guys that want to know more, not just from us, but from a university professor, what's really going on, who specializes in this field. Here we go.
A few years ago, I was having lunch with some colleagues, and I mentioned the research I'd been doing on shame. I said, it all seems to come down to one thing, being enough. One of the therapists said, you're enough? I didn't know you were from Enough. That inspired this cute little character. I keep on my desk, I give out to my clients, a reminder that we are all enough. I'm enough, you're enough, they're enough. If that's true, what keeps us from believing it? I wish I could give you a bullet point answer to that question, but I can't. What I can do is walk you through some things I've discovered in my 40 plus years of being a mother, an educator, a therapist, and an author. In the 1990s, I was a mom of 4 small children and a parent educator for a large pediatric practice in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I was well equipped with the best parenting information I had learned in my early childhood graduate program. However, behind closed doors, I often heard people, myself included, saying things such as, I can't get it right. What's wrong with me? Everybody else seems to have it all together. The more parenting books people read, the worse they felt. I decided to pursue a PhD in psychology so I could fix this not enoughness once and for all. My thesis question was, what's the lived experience of mothers who feel good enough? Attachment theorist Donald Winnicott had coined the term good enough mother in 1953 to relinquish mommy guilt. My research revealed Winnicott didn't help. Good enough just became another unobtainable standard. Not enoughness can't be calculated, reasoned with, or fixed. It lives in the shadow of perfectionism.
That's because it's a subconscious belief.
That's right.
That's why you can't just reason it away. And that's why CBT for many people doesn't work. It doesn't work for half the people who go to the psychologist, sit on the couch, talk. They'll do it for a year straight. Half of them don't respond at all, don't get better. That's why.
Researcher Brene.
Because it's subconscious. You're working on the wrong part of the brain. We work on the right part of the brain to fix it.
Brown calls shame. That painful feeling of being tragically flawed and unworthy of love and belonging. Psychologist Carl Jung defined the shadow as the parts of ourselves we hide because we fear that they are bad. When we don't recognize our shadow, we tend to act in ways we don't consciously understand. What then is lurking in this shadow of chronic not-enoughness? Let's start with 2 years ago, a time we all remember all too well, but I know we'd really like to forget. So 1 month after the COVID-19 pandemic hit, there was an 891% increase in calls to the National Mental Health Hotline. The pause on our busy routines was a wake-up call for our mental health. No longer any place to run and hide from our shadow. We had to go in, not out. Raven, a 20-year-old college student, contacted me with anxiety and depression and shared this journal entry. I'm worried about debt, college success, dad's health, mom's emotions, if I will ever be loved, or if I am loved. 52-year-old Ella reached out for her first-time therapy appointment 17 years after suffering a debilitating stroke. She told me it seems as if all my life I put my emotions in boxes on a shelf, and the shelf has gotten too heavy, and now the boxes have fallen on the floor, and I can't ignore them anymore. It's as if we've created a culture that thrives on not being good enough. Media images portray unrealistic expectations. Success is measured by graduating from the best colleges, hefty bank accounts. Children are encouraged to compete regardless of
I'm
how
gonna
much
pause it real quick.
they use.
Sure.
So
There's demand.
I find it interesting that that woman, she gave the analogy of boxes that she's carrying around. And I think that's sort of supporting evidence for, like, when we're in hypnosis, we're using oftentimes visual imagery to kind of represent these bad programs, if it's being sucked into the tornado or being released, like these doors on the back, all of you. And so I think that's one of the reasons it works, is because a lot of people kind of do the way they describe how they feel is like, I have too many boxes on the shelf. I'm always being weighed down. But
Yep.
notice it's always about a feeling. I feel like I have too many boxes. That's
And
why
it's
we always say
heavy.
it's a
And
narrative
after a
tied to
session with us,
feeling.
people are like, I feel lighter.
Yes.
Right. And
Like
it's
we hear
always
that probably 2/3 of my clients just spontaneously. I feel lighter. Or I'm like, how do you feel? Oh, I feel lighter. Yeah.
Yep. That's all I want to say is I thought that was interesting that she's other people who are kind of unconnected to hypnosis, that everyone always seems to use those visualizations, because I think the other people can understand that, right? It's a good way to communicate how you feel.
So here's the key to what Jordan's saying is our cognitive world deals with these things by creating this symbology. Either rocks in our backpack, got too many, boxes on the shelf, I can't carry them all, whatever. You know the difference though, so you really can't deal with those boxes too well. Because in your cognitive world, I know that those boxes on that imaginary shelf are not real. It's just a way for me to imagine them. When we go into hypnosis, your subconscious does not know the difference between reality and imaginary. So now we can take those imaginary objects and do things with them that are impactful to the cognitive effort, right? So now when you wake and come out of this deep relaxation and you become more aware, those boxes that you were dealing with before are no longer there. Not that you can't imagine them there. They're just gone.
Yeah. And maybe we get 1, 2, 3 of those boxes gone per session, maybe 4.
Yep.
You may have more boxes, but whatever we get each session is just gone because we rewire that part of your brain. That's what we do. All right. So back to this. Here we go. Thank you, Tim.
Perfection over well-being. Implicit bias dismisses and disregards race, gender, and diversity. And even our mental health system feeds not-enoughness with stigma, diagnoses, and how-to solutions that often lead to more failure.
Wow. Did you hear that?
What the hell has happened to us?
Yeah.
Even our mental health system. So it's telling you that they feed on that not enoughness.
Yeah.
Right? You got to keep coming back, giving me some money, taking these drugs to cover up that not enoughness.
Yeah, and we've done shows on like normal therapists who have a YouTube show and their episode is therapy sucks. Why does therapy suck so much? And they're like, their conclusion is, well, it works a little and it's the best we have.
Yeah.
Like they're actually admitting that they know it sucks, but that it works sometimes for some people to some degree. And it does. It is helpful to a degree. It's just, man, they have they really need to start working on this other part of the brain. They're all free prefrontal cortex. That's only one part of your brain. Work on the limbic system, work on the subconscious. Come on. I mean, they do work on it to a point, but they use this, the lens they look at it is through the analytical, logical, cognitive brain. You know, it's like they use your conscious mind to fix the subconscious. You know,
Jordan, jump in here, then I got a comment.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just said, instead of even, I might have used the word especially the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what Ryan's saying is that initially it's only half as good. Well, the real statistic is 50% of the people after a long number of sessions moderately respond, which means
mild to, yeah.
Which
I mean, it depends.
It's not 100% effective for 50% of the people. It's moderately effective for 50% of the people. Now, how could we make that, which is the industry standard, better? By using hypnotherapy to paint that picture and remove those things that are really burdening some. Because in reality is most adults are so practiced at destroying themselves and self-sabotaging that even when we get done with those people through hypnosis, I think there's a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy that will help them, journaling and positive affirmations and self-talk and visiting somebody to keep you on the right track. But now you're no longer burdened with that thing that was holding you down. Now we could actually take that psychotherapy, and all that kind of stuff and make it very, very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live, Stuart
baby.
Smalley. Yeah, and actually, we have some I teach self-talk. Self-talk's good. It's, it's not the most important tool, but it's helpful. There's actually a better way to do it than affirmations. It's called evidence-based identity statements. As you go through life, you actually point out the good things you do as evidence for, I am good enough, or look, I did that correct. I did that right. That, I made my bed. It means I'm clean and orderly. I got to work on time. I'm punctual and disciplined. I went to the gym. I care. That means I care about my health. I'm a fit person because I went to the gym. So you actually standing in front of the mirror and just saying a bunch of positive stuff. You're not showing your brain any proof that it's real. Actually show your brain evidence of good things you do. Point it out to your brain. That's actually more effective than these affirmations that don't have anything to back it up. So that's what we add on top of hypnosis. That they reprogram your subconscious more important. But affirmations are helpful too. They're just not as helpful as some of the other stuff we do. They can help to a point. if you do it a ton. For some people, it helps. So hey.
I want to be really clear that kind of stuff only works if your subconscious actually believes it.
If it accepts it, yeah.
If it will reject it, you can't override what's there. You can reinforce and amplify what's there.
Affirm what's there.
Can't really change it. And I think, like, for me, my experience was I kind of already knew how to affirm myself and do those things, but it wasn't. That was my problem. Is like it wasn't working. Like I felt like I had to keep doing it, had to keep telling myself these things, and so it didn't feel like it stuck.
Because you know what? There are a couple of good programs deep down inside, even a tremendously maladaptive person. So if you find those matches and you continue to feed those matches a pattern, you will start feeling good for a bit about that particular thing. But once one of those other programs sees a match in the outside world and triggers, you may not be as effective as you really would want to be.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks guys. We'll keep going here.
Let's go back, way back to infancy and childhood. In the first 3 years of life, your nonverbal feeling right brain develops before your verbal analytical left brain. You aren't born asking for a Starbucks. Instead, you cry out for the feeling of being comforted, loved, seen, nurtured. Caregivers who attune to our early needs help us develop neural connections that support the feelings of love and belonging. Misattunements, however, prune off these neural connections, much like trimming branches off a tree, leaving us with a broken compass for feeling good enough from the start. Now let's go back even further, back to our ancestors. Swiss psychoanalyst Alice Miller studied 18th century child-rearing practices. She called them poisonous pedagogies because they encouraged parents to withhold love and affection. To name
manipulation.
We have a different type of poison today, but the roots of this are still in modern child rearing, and then there's some other crap in there. Go ahead.
I'm telling you, we've been teaching this for over 100 years. It is, and again, she said what I always say is that is, you come into this world in a subconscious state and you're looking for love, acknowledgement, acceptance, safety, and security. And if you don't get those, like she's saying there, you got these snipped off emotional branches that now you're going to try to figure some other way to give you that, even though you didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And even now this stuff, Dr. Gabor Mate tells about a lady who had a newborn baby. She was in the hospital and the doctor told her, don't hold your baby more than a few minutes every hour and a half. It's like deprive that baby of love. And that's modern. That was a modern doctor saying that. It's like, what the hell, guys?
Where you don't get that love, affection, acknowledgement, and safety and security is daycare.
Oh, good.
And daycare is rampant because two parents got to work just to be able to survive, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to have some type of lifestyle. So what do? 6, 8, 10 weeks old, they drop their baby off at daycare to people who could give a crap other than to get your money.
And look at the shift in our society. It's gone from mom stays at home, takes care of the kids, loves the kids, has community with all of her neighbors, knows all their neighbors. So all the neighbors' moms are keeping an eye out on the kid while he's playing, etc. Now she's a strong, independent woman. But, like when women say, again, I'm not just harping on women. I know men and women have their dysfunctions, but they say strong, independent women now, they should add and a terrible mom.
Yeah.
Or maybe I wouldn't say terrible,
or even not a mom.
You cannot be strong, independent in the workforce and adequately raise your child. I'm sorry. There might be a lady watching this getting offended, but it is 100% the truth. If you're not there for your child because you're working, that impedes your ability to give the child the support, guidance, everything else that child needs. And, full stop. It's just, it's facts. You're not there. The kid suffers. You put the kid in daycare with people who don't really care about that kid.
Child
suffers. That child suffers and has subconscious trauma from that, from you abandoning that child into daycare. I know that's a hard truth, but it's just straight up true. So I'm going to say it.
And it's
Cool.
And I do understand there's some women have no choice. And if you have no choice, it is what it is. So I don't want to like make people who are just trying to make ends meet feel terrible, but it's still a fact we have to face.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I'll say, shit. Lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something, but like planning, right? Like you don't want to, if you're gonna like make the best of all the scenarios you're in, but encourage others to plan. And I was gonna say to be clear, this doesn't mean you become like a helicopter parent, where you never let the child experience like test themselves or go out on their own or do things for themselves. It doesn't mean I understand, like, I'll give that doctor the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was thinking, oh, if you smother children too much, they never become self-sufficient and self-independent. But that's, again, an oversimplification of the concepts. It's not that you have to show the child that they are loved, that they are wanted, that they are desired, that they have value. But that doesn't mean you live their life for them. Like, you're not the mother that's filling out, I don't know, like in kindergarten, like their homework assignments for them, that kind of stuff, so they don't feel bad about them. Like, you have to let them test themselves, to fall down, to get hurt, to like you have to, like, it's the nature, like the analogy of like the tree that's, it grows up in the wild. It has to learn to be able to swing with the wind, right? But and I would argue the way you teach it to learn to swing is you give it that unconditional love, support, attention, affection, commitment.
Yeah. Just a few comments. Rosebud, very good point. Children in the home are greatly damaged if the dad isn't there, or maybe he's there, but he's not there. You know what I mean? He like comes home, watches TV, ignores the kids, or, abuse, just whatever. You got to have it. I mean, to have an emotionally healthy child, you have to have a good dad in the home. That is absolutely critical part of it. And we have too many homes, far too many now, where that is not the case. So public full system, Matt Dubia, yeah, they don't, and oftentimes, there's a lot of bullying, kids just treating each other terribly. A lot of that goes on in the public school system. Yeah, schooler, did you? Yeah. So Rosebud, yep, covered that. Failure is a part of learning. Well said, Rosebud. A good way to imagine it is that trauma also depends on interpretations. 100% true, Spark. Welcome. Haven't seen you in a while. For example, if your son fails, encourage him to keep going instead of shaming him. So if you shame the child's like, failure's bad. I can't fail. If I fail, it means I'm not good enough. The most successful people, we're talking people worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I have a friend worth over 100 million. I'm going to interview him this Friday, and he's going to put his video out because I did sessions for him. 100 million. He's a venture capitalist. He does an annual event he chairs an annual event at MIT. But anyways, he had 1 year, he made 100 million in just 1 year. And I was talking to him, I'm like, well, how do you feel about failure? And he said, I feel encouraged when I fail. He says there's always failure before any great success, but there's only a limited amount. There's only a certain amount before you succeed. Each failure is therefore a milestone for me that one more failure down, I'm closer to success. I've climbed another step on the ladder. He literally felt encouraged. Tom Bilyeu, worth $400 million, said, I don't care if I fall down, look stupid, mess up, because I'm learning. And because I'm willing to fall down, fail, look stupid, mess up, other people are laughing at me, but I'm laughing because I know I'm going to win in the long run because I'm willing to do this. Other people aren't. Yep. So when you get like these, deep beliefs in you based on it's what your parents and others say to you, but then most importantly, how you interpret it. But a kid, if you're treating your kid like crap, they're probably going to interpret it the worst way. It's just how it is.
So to elaborate off of what when the son fails, encourage him. It's not just encouragement. It's like
Encourage him to keep going. You'll get it. Keep going.
It's not just that. It's I don't withhold my approval, my love, attention, affection when you fail, because because parents are basically like gods to the children. And so if that's how if we talked about external validation, that's really where that comes from. Is I'm a parent, my kid fails, and I say, I'm not gonna support you unless you succeed. Then they have in their head that I'm only worthy of love if I have external accomplishments. That's how that goes. But if it's always there, if they fail, the parent still accepts them. They win, the parent still cheers them on. Regardless, that's how you build that internal frame of I am good enough no matter what. I win, lose, I am still good enough, and it's not tied. So parents have the ability to reinforce external or internal.
Correct. Now, when someone fails, always remember that there was an effort and a gumption along with that failure that needs to be heralded. Hey,
reward
good job
the effort
for having the courage to go and try and figure that out. You learned one way that didn't work. No big deal. Keep trying. You'll find some more ways that don't work until you do find the way that does work. Right. So the effort is what's congratulated. And I don't mean this objective-based education where you show up and you get an A. I'm talking about
you got to put in the effort and reward the
job.
effort.
Yep.
There's actually scientific data that shows that easy victories when you're a kid leads to low-performing adults, but that people that are rewarded for hard effort as children, they're given a pat on the back and attaboy for hard effort, they end up becoming high-performing adults.
And the key
not for the success, but for putting in the effort when you try hard, it leads them to try hard more and more and more and more. Here's a big truth bomb. I'm going to connect some dots for you guys right now. When you are punished for doing something wrong as a kid, or you try and you fail and you're punished for that, other kids ridicule you or your parents or whatever, how that manifests as an adult is anxiety and procrastination. Anxiety, procrastination, and self-sabotage. We go in, we find these subconscious programs happen in childhood, we remove them, and immediately, like even the very next day, people just work harder. They're not procrastinating, or the procrastination's way down. That's what we fix. Procrastination for most people is fear of failure. If you think, man, I got to do this right, and if I don't do it right, I'm going to look like a fool or feel bad, your subconscious mind's response is just avoid it. Don't do it. And then you procrastinate. So, yeah, that's one of the things.
I want to reinforce what Ryan said because it's so important, is that parents need to reinforce the process, not the result.
100%.
The difference is, you worked really, you won some award. Oh, you must have worked really hard to get this, versus, oh, you won this because you're so smart. One of them is you're rewarding the process and encouraging the process to get that thing, versus you won this award, you're so smart. It's like the identity. And it's like when you encourage them to the encouragement comes from trying, and then it's independent of failure. Then it's independent. It's how to really be outcome independent, or how to instill that outcome independence in your children, is to reward and encourage and reinforce the process of learning, the process of growing, not the outcome. And by doing so, ironically, more of those positive outcomes will happen when you focus on the process.
Yep. And there's actually a ridiculous amount of science and studies confirming this. Read the book Atomic Habits. It's the best-selling book in history on forming habits that stick, behaviors that stick. 15 million copies sold. James Clear, the author, did a ridiculous amount of scientific research. Well, you know, he didn't do his own experiments, but he collected all the data already out there, came up with that book. This is scientifically supported. Continued effort means eventual success. Reward.
Yeah, we talked about that right there. Accountability.
Don't,
shame, that good
yeah,
stuff.
don't shame, reward. Sticks, you know, the stick and the carrot, sticks make you avoid things. So don't shame someone for their effort, even if they fail. That leads to them avoiding the effort. You reward effort, and that actually encourages. Now you just keep going even when you fail. There's so much scientific data, but it actually releases dopamine when you have a psychological signal that you tried, and even though you failed, you're still on the right path. You learned something, you made progress despite your failure. Actually releases dopamine, enhances your motivation and your ability to learn. There's so much ridiculous amount of neuroscience and psychology behind this. Everything we're saying is backed by some sort of study somewhere. You know, we're going to watch the rest of this. We'll have to kind of go through it kind of quickly. This lady's a scientist. She's a university professor. She has a doctorate. So, you know, the science agrees with us. What the science doesn't understand is we have techniques they don't that are actually much more effective. It's they have the intellectual understanding of how this all works. They haven't figured out a practical application like we have. Shaming accountability is good when you're dealing with, yeah. So here's where shame is good. Don't murder. Don't steal. Don't be rude to others. Shame is good at it. When shame is tied to the things you should not do, it is an effective deterrent from doing those things. So you are correct, Rosebud. Anything you want people to avoid doing, shame is an effective deterrent for that.
It's called healthy shame.
Yeah, it sets boundaries within society. So if go to jail if you murder someone or you rob a bank or whatever. Okay, multiple failures are even better. Once you find the one way that succeeds, you also know the many ways that aren't successful by first-hand experience. Yeah, Thomas Edison said, I haven't failed. I learned one more way that doesn't work, meaning there is value in that. You know, maybe you have to look at 5 different careers, and actually I studied 3 different majors in school and then settled on one and then changed my career twice. And now I just changed my career a 3rd time after my last career of 20 years, which was very successful. I still do it a little because it pays me $400 an hour. I can't turn some stuff down. But it's you know what you don't want anymore, which gets you closer to what you do want. So it's great. That's fine. Failure is merely figuring it out.
Exactly. When you reframe it like the process, you think of it as a process. I'm learning, I'm understanding, I'm growing, I'm getting feedback. When you frame it like that instead of failure, it I think becomes a lot clearer.
Yeah,
true that.
100%. Spark community on MindChrysalis is really good. It absolutely is. We have an active community. It's all positive. And so just right there, guys. It's free. All right. Okay, moving on. Just going to watch the rest of the good doctor here.
Humiliate.
Patti Ashley.
And literally beat the devil out of a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum. The ultimate parenting goal was to break the will of the child.
Let's just go back.
Swiss psychoanalyst Alice Miller studied 18th century child rearing practices. She called them poisonous pedagogies because they encouraged parents to withhold love and affection, to name call, ridicule, humiliate, and literally beat the devil out of a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum. The ultimate parenting goal was to break the will of the child before old enough to remember. Now let's pivot into the lens of neuroscience and trauma. Tests that measure electrical activity in your brain show that prior to age 7, your brain operates in mainly lower level theta brainwaves. So everything in the first 6 years of life is absorbed into your subconscious mind, much like a hypnotic trance.
Bingo.
They know this stuff. They know when you go in hypnosis, it lowers your brainwave to theta state. and it changes the characteristics of how your brain behaves. Your brain is now able at a subconscious level to absorb suggestions, and it makes you neuroplastic at the subconscious level where you can actually, and she's saying as a child, beliefs, how you view the world, your perception of the world are being downloaded directly to your subconscious as a child. What hypnosis does is it gets your brain waves down to that same level so you can do it as an adult. And actually,
you're telling me that she wrote this presentation.
They know it, but they don't do it.
Wrote the words much like a hypnotic trance and still never made the connection that,
Correct.
if only there was a way to put people back into a hypnotic trance.
So we can change their
program them.
But you know what?
We should invent that way.
Maybe she does hypnosis. We don't know. Maybe she does. I don't know. But the mainstream doesn't do it. It is what it is. They're using outdated technology.
Sorts. A shame-inducing spell, perhaps? Physician Gabor Mate defined trauma as an emotional wound that induces fear and interferes with the ability to grow and develop.
That's the number one thing we fix.
We've all experienced trauma in varying degrees, including secondary trauma, just watching.
But we're not medical professionals. Just got to give that disclaimer. We are mindset coaches.
TV, news, and social media. Regardless of the degree,
we actually show you how to fix it. That's what we do.
Trauma impairs the brain and nervous system's ability to feel safe. Seeking emotional safety, children begin to start to develop adaptive responses that continue on into adulthood.
Subconscious programs.
Rage.
Yep, exactly. The hardcore scientists know this. They just haven't found how to practically apply it. Hopefully they'll get it. And we're trying to get the world to adopt this. What we do.
Avoidance, disordered eating, perfectionism, over-controlling, and even addiction, just to name a few.
Yep.
When we don't look our shame shadow straight in the eye and take it down, we end up taking ourselves and others down with us.
Self-sabotage.
COVID made us look. The past 2 years of uncertainty and fear have activated so much trauma. Nervous systems are raw. My clients are saying, I'm shattered. I'm a mess. I'm undone. I'm falling apart. What I say to them is, sometimes things have to come apart in order to come together in a different way. As the poet Rumi says, you have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. I may have painted a bleak picture here, but the good news is you can rewire neural connections and change your DNA, but you can't do it from the neck up. I started tonight with this slide, not to make fun of the fact that many of us don't feel good enough.
You have a comment, Jordan?
You can only do it from the neck up.
That's what is she talking about? Like, of course you can. Did I hear that correctly? Did you guys?
I heard it.
I was actually watching all the comments, so let's go back.
That's fine. I was like, did she really say that?
She said you can't do it from the neck up, which she's sort of true in that you can't do it cognitively.
Yeah.
So we store trauma in our nervous system. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, the best-selling psychology book for the last 8 years, is Your Body Keeps the Score, or The Body Keeps the Score, how trauma is stored in our nervous system throughout our body. We have a second brain. Google it, guys. Our second brain. There is a mass of nerves and neurons in our gut that is just as many that actually process data, and it's just as many neurons as a cat's brain. But if you look at our entire torso, we have neurons. We have neurons on our heart. We have what's on our heart called the small brain. We have our second brain in our gut. Our immune system is called the floating brain. Actual neurons processing data, and being connected here. And our gut affects the neurons in our gut, and heart affect our mood and our emotions. And so throughout our body, we're processing data. Our torso here has just as many neurons as in our brain. That's science. They've measured it. It's science. Just as many neurons.
It's the nervous system.
Neurons processing brain cells are in our torso, just as many here as there are up here. It's a fact.
Yeah.
She knows it.
Let's keep rolling.
So that's why we work on your whole body. Where do you feel this trauma in your body? What's it feel like? That's part of what we do.
Heart until it opens. I may have painted a bleak picture here, but the good news is
The good news is,
Oh,
did Ryan
fine.
just freeze?
Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. We'll have to wait for him to come
Ryan in
back.
the video froze.
He's frozen too. I think it's his internet
Anyway,
connection.
well, I guess in the meantime, I can comment on the comment on the screen. And I would say that the big pharma stuff, I would say that's by design. They've set up since they're sort of they're such a bureaucratic institution. Vivek Ramaswamy talks about this because he started his own company about this, showing how inefficient big pharma is. So I don't know if I think there has to be money in the cure. It's just they have structured their.
He's gone.
Yeah, we can. I'm sure I'll be back. We'll get.
Yep.
I can't imagine there's no money in the cure. I think they have established, because they're so bureaucratic and so entrenched in government, they have established this is how we want to do things, and not allowing competitors to come in. Because I believe that once we get introduced, there definitely is going to be money in the cure. Because there can't help it. Because people that's what entrepreneurship is problem solving.
Yep.
And if the market can work properly, that's the thing I like is anytime you see I kind of going off a little off topic, but anytime you see an event, I'm trying to explain his question here. It's anytime you see something that's inefficient in the market, it's probably because the government is highly intertwined in that industry. I think that's the reason big pharma is that way, because they can stop competitors who can come in and actually solve the problem. They don't want them in the business, so they regulate them out of existence.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the process. And they generate it and they release drugs. Even Bessel van de Kolk talks about when the first Prozac and stuff come out, how helpful he thought it was in the beginning, then found out how dangerous it was as time went on. It didn't really do what it was supposed to do. And now they were sending it out there. Valium, I think it was Valium was first. They were sending it out there like candy. It's like taking M&Ms. So it is because of money, of course, because companies are formed to return shareholder profits. And that's just the way it goes. What's Ryan?
You want me to pull up the same TED Talk?
I don't know if you can share the video.
I can try.
His internet is down.
I mean, last time this happened, he came back pretty quickly. So
yeah, I don't know if we can even stop the live, because I don't have a button. I can leave the studio, but I guess if we both leave the studio, it'll be over.
Yeah, I mean, I can bring I think I can bring the TED Talk back.
I can't present because I'm not the whatever.
Let's see if I have. Do I have presenting?
I guess I could.
Looks like I have presenting capabilities. Make sure that. Oh, Ryan's come back online.
Ah, there we go. He's got all the master controls.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any other comments I had on. I just think that's crazy. 18th century, is that? So I'd want to know the more history on that. Are those parenting techniques? Is that a new thing? They're like, hey, we should try abusing our kids.
Every generation has had a way, and I think it was pretty similar for a long time, shaming and demanding and stuff like that. And then Dr. Spock came out in the 60s or 50s with his book about child rearing, and it took a different direction, but a very similar direction. The real key now, and sadly, the whole industry is now built on everybody assuming money. Women now want masculine power, and they find out when they get there, it wasn't what they thought it was. And quite frankly, women in the home have all of the control. If the women want to control the future of the world, then they will get in the home. They will do what a woman is supposed to do in the home. And this is not being sexist. There's a rigging that women are all about, being that happy wife, if you will, and living with a supportive, wonderful husband, and they work together to create these offspring that work the world well. So if they really want to change, they have all the power to change. They're not going to get into legislate. They're not going to get into run companies and make better people. They're just going to make money.
I'll start with the
Hey,
individual.
Ryan, welcome back.
Hey, all right.
We're an
Okay,
hour and a half
so-
right now. We got to finish this up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. We'll watch the rest of this. Real quick comments. Money makes the world go round. Pharmaceuticals, psychology, all of that. Though they fund studies. They fund all the studies. They fund the universities.
And they lie in the
limbic-
studies.
Yeah, limbic system is technically the brain is a limbic system according as defined. But yes, you are actually correct. It's more. So
How do you think, it's like, if you think about, how do you think the brain knows what's going on in all of your body? Where do you think sensory touch in your feet comes from?
yeah, these
Yep.
different brains all communicate.
You got
to each
neurons
other.
everywhere. I mean, I've had clients that have had
Nerves and neurons.
uncomfortability in their feet, and then that's where the trauma was located, was the soles of their feet. It's
Yeah, and this is the problem, Spark, is the universities don't teach these advanced practical application methods. They teach the outdated crap that supports a certain business model, and that is regulated by law. It's so we have to give these disclaimers saying we're not going to fix any medical condition you have. We're not going to treat any mental health, and we give these disclaimers. We are mindset coaches. We're not psychologists.
Right.
But I have to give a big disclaimer every time to say, listen, we're coaches, we're not therapists, because if I don't, then some agency will come after us, stupid. Monopoly, yeah. So there's little innovation. Yeah, they got their cash cow now. So I look at normal therapists as steam engine engineers. Steam engine technology they keep on coming out with a better steam engine, but it's a damn steam engine. I mean, it's like, when are you guys going to become nuclear fusion engineers?
gravity warp drive, but I'm just
Yeah, exactly. I think it's coming around. I think at some point they'll have no choice. Thank goodness for the internet bringing awareness to, internet's good and bad, but definitely the good parts are very good. Okay. So, yep, agreed, Spark 55. So we will finish playing this and then wrap it up. There's about 6 minutes more. It's at 1 1/4 speed. Here we go. And viva la internet in Costa Rica.
Yeah, baby.
All right, here we go.
That many of us don't feel good enough. Rather, to give you and myself one split second of feeling good without analyzing or judging whether or not you believe it. How many of you sighed or exhaled when you saw this? How many of you chuckled or laughed? That one split second may have contributed to positive changes in your brain, known as neuroplasticity. So now let's move down into your heart. Your heart is the regulatory organ that detects and responds to safety threats, not your brain. You have 40,000 sensory neurites in your heart valves, also known as the heart brain.
See, this is all
Keep going.
science, guys. Everything
going.
we
We
say
said
is
it.
science. It's
Yep.
all backed. Go ahead.
Keep going. We said it, man.
Trauma
She's
stress
just confirming.
connects the head from the heart. That's why you can't find safety in your logical mind.
Boom, right there.
Keep going. I wouldn't be surprised if she does hypnosis. I mean, look at her. I don't know. She's wearing like this amulet and shit. Maybe she's into it. I wouldn't be surprised, guys. She knows the stuff. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I just said she's confirming what we're saying.
Yeah, man. All right, keep
You
going.
can't
I have a confession. I only watched half of this before the show. Okay, keep going.
find safety in your logical mind. Experiences that feel good are what you need to generate coherent heart rhythms and rewire emotional safety. And I'm not talking about the bottle of wine, the Ben & Jerry's, or the booty call. Setting your compass to present moment regulates the heart. Worries about the future and regrets about the past take you out of present moment and reactivate trauma. Jon Kabat-Zinn, pioneer of relaxation meditation, defines mindfulness as moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness. The poet Mary Oliver wrote, "If we pause for a moment, even for something as inconsequential as a few birds singing, we might find unexpected joy. It doesn't help to go back and blame or criticize anyone about what happened to you. Instead, acknowledge your ability to change your neural connections now and make a commitment to be better to yourself. Remember my client Ella? Let me tell you what was in her boxes. One box held the trauma she had not being able to communicate with caregivers after her stroke. Another held her guilt she has because her husband blames her for his arthritis, having to lift and transport her. Another has her mother-in-law's criticism. And another had her feelings of failure as a mother because she couldn't do the things that other mothers could do. And in another box was Rufus, a children's book she started before her stroke and never got back to until February of this year. Knowing that creativity helps build neuroplasticity, I encouraged Ella to start writing. It took her many months, but she's now begun to let Rufus speak. Ella found freedom in emptying her boxes and releasing her pain. Rufus is helping her to continue to express herself, and maybe one day her children's book will help others do the same. Demystifying chronic not-enoughness requires telling the truth. If you look closely at the word familiar, you might see two words: family and liar. Much of what we learned growing up is a lie. Now let me shamelessly share a few of mine. I was a mistake. I was Fatty Patty. In 6th grade, I was told to be happy when my father died because he was in heaven. My high school guidance counselor told me I wasn't smart enough to be a psychologist. My ex-husband would tell me not to sing to our children because I might make them tone deaf. Luckily, gratefully, through the year.
Abused all the way into adulthood.
Yeah, man. I'm laughing because my dad did something very similar to me. He like made fun of my singing. So you know, yeah, whatever. Screw him. No, I'm just kidding.
That's it.
Many years of brutal inner space work, I've discovered, or I am discovering, the truer things. I am a blessing. I have beautiful curves.
Go girl.
All right. Well, some people believe that, so that's cool. It's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Go for it.
That's it.
She by the way, and you know, even if yeah, she could lose a few pounds, but being confident about who you are does make you more attractive. So she's in her 60s. I'll give her grace. Yeah, she's in her 60s. Just believe whatever you want. But honestly, embracing who you are, hey, maybe you are a little overweight, you know, whatever. If you're confident about it, it does make you more attractive. We're not going to ignore that. Hey, yeah, if you get in better shape, are you more attractive? Yeah, you know, I'm not going to ignore that. But being confident about where you're at also makes you more attractive. So good for her. Keep going. And it's not the only thing that defines our value. It's like one little tiny slice.
It does not define our value at all.
Yeah.
100%. We are worth it just because we're alive and we are a diamond. She can work on everything else.
There you go. All right. We'll keep going.
It's essential to wail when losing a loved one, especially my father. I got that PhD in psychology. And I just sang in my first solo vocal freedom performance with Rebecca Folsom.
You go, girl.
14th. Demystifying chronic not-enoughness also requires the willingness and tenacity to stay on the ride, even if you don't know where it's going or how long it's going to take.
That's us right now, right?
That's it.
MindChrysalis was still new. Yeah, it's all good.
Metaphysician Deepak Chopra said that some people think that the shadow is the opposite of love, and actually, it is the way to love. The average number of uncomfortable feelings my clients can identify is 3: frustrated, mad, and sad. Growing up, we often learn feeling words from adults who simultaneously shame us for them. Don't be angry. You're okay. Stop crying before I give you something to cry about. Get over it. It's only an ice cream cone.
That lady in the audience is like, oh crap, I say that to my kids. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But maybe.
Or
it was said to her.
Yeah.
I'll push back a little bit. Like the "you're okay" piece is like, I've seen studies of like if small children fall down, there's the way the parents react might reflect the way the kid reacts. So like if they just kind of laugh it off and kind of just play it like it's not a big deal, the child will say, "Oh, it's okay." It is okay, rather than rushing to the child's side to see if they're, hurt or something like that. So
Yep.
I mean, that's maybe not exactly what she meant, but
All right, cool. This is now our longest show ever. We'll finish it out.
Yeah.
To believe that our feelings are bad, so we shut them down, fearing we are bad. So where do you think they go? The shadow. I offer my clients a 50-word feeling list to help them identify the shadow.
Oh, I do that. I think
Yep.
mine's like 70 words, the descriptive word list. Anyways, we'll keep going.
They begin to excavate deeper emotions,
Which is on MindChrysalis
such as abandoned, unloved,
for free.
Shameless plug.
betrayed, invisible. These deeper feelings help them identify that original shame story so they can write a new narrative. For example, if you feel abandoned, ask how you can stick around for yourself a little more. And finally, a very significant way to break the spell of shame is by using the magic of imagination. Awe, wonder, and curiosity tame shame. Give yourself permission to play and be like a child. Sing, dance, laugh, create. Use your senses to identify things that feel, taste, smell, look, sound good, like your favorite song. Petting your cat, sun shining, flowers blooming, lavender, hot tea. Imagine gratitude, even amid devastation. And of course, imagine what it might feel like if you were enough.
Now, let me tell you, the way that I know that her subconscious trauma has not been cleared is there was one point in there when she said she had beautiful curves, and then she waited for the external validation.
She waited for the cheers.
Yep. You can watch it again at some point. And I'm thinking, how sad. This woman who is so in touch with everything else that's going on, she's still at that point where she feels not good in her skin and needs you to tell her that she's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, our longest show ever.
Yeah. Mini series. We'll be starting.
A lot of truth bombs dropped by Dr. Patti. A lot of truth bombs. Great stuff. I wonder what her methodologies are. Really, all you got to do is, well, I mean, not all you got to do. I wonder how much. I just wonder how much she does, like how much of the practical application actually. She says all the good things. Does she know how to quickly get it in someone? Like just
everything that I looked on her website is very authoring and journaling and self-affirmation and sort of that typical CBT kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is you just have to add a few things to that.
Bingo.
And they just don't add it, but I mean, there's some Stanford neuroscientists. Dr. Huberman talks about hypnosis, says it's a way to, very quickly change, use it turbocharges the neuroplasticity of your brain, very quickly change subconscious programs. He talks about that with Mike Tyson. I played that clip on here before. There's a Stanford neuroscientist he works with that really studies hypnosis. And so there are some that it's like they get 90% of the solution. They just don't have the last 10%. Like people like this. Some are just flat out clueless. But this lady I really like a lot. She really knows a lot. I hope she has that 10% that's a key to unlock all this potential.
She wrote it in her speech. She wrote it in her speech.
Yeah, hypnotic state. I hope she knows how to do that. I really do. If not, and you by any chance you watch this, Dr. Patti, look me up. I'll teach it to you.
That's it.
Yeah. Confidence is believing in your ability and value. Authentic, that the real you, the real authentic you is awesome, has value. Arrogance is believing you're better than others. Good show today. Thanks, Ryan Coe, for all the help. Yeah, so that's all I had. Anything final before we leave, guys? Thanks.
We
for
said
watching.
it all, baby. We said it all.
All right. So unlock your
yeah,
door.
take action. If you
Take
like what I'm
action,
talking about,
take
take
action.
action.
Take action.
If you wonder if it works or not, go click on the videos tab on my channel. Watch some of those interviews, testimonials. I got another 5 coming. I'm going to schedule them and release them. I have some other videos I haven't released. Well, I actually have like 10 audio interviews, but they're audio, so I haven't released them. We have even more proof that this works coming out soon. But hey, you can do it now. Up over your life. It is worth it because you're worth it, and you really do have more power than you know. Thank you, everyone. That is our show.